All right, welcome back everyone to the deep dive. Today we're jumping into a really dynamic topic, the office market in Gurugram, India. It's definitely a place global businesses are keeping a close eye on.
Absolutely. And, to really get a handle on what's going on, we've got a fantastic source. It's the Gurugram 2025 Office Market Outlook, a micro-market guide for global occupiers. This report comes from AIHP.
Right.
And it's not just like a quick summary, it's a proper deep analysis. They've pulled together data and research from all the major players in commercial real estate.
That's crucial. So our goal today, our mission if you like, is to unpack this report for you. We're aiming to pull out the most important insights, the key numbers, basically give you a clear map of why specific areas in Gurugram are drawing in companies and what makes each one tick. Think of this deep dive as your shortcut to understand the strategic thinking behind office locations in this really vital market.
And the report's methodology seems really solid. They've taken info from the big names JLL, CBRE, Knight Frank, and layered in AIHP's own quite extensive market research.
Okay.
And importantly, they've cross-verified everything. They've used primary sources like disclosures from developers, updates from infrastructure bodies, think HMRTC for the metro, NHAI for highways.
Got it. So reliable stuff.
Exactly. The data feels grounded.
Okay, great. So let's start with the big picture then.
Yeah.
Zooming out, looking at the whole National Capital Region, or NCR, Gurugram really seems to dominate.
Oh, absolutely dominates. The report shows it consistently captures around, say, 65% of the total Grade-A office absorption in the NCR. It's the heavyweight.
65%, that's substantial.
Yeah.
And what about the overall size of the market? Is it still growing fast?
It is. The total Grade-A stock, it's projected to cross 54 million square feet by early 2025. And the interesting part is the recent growth. They're adding roughly 4 million square feet just in the 2024-25 period alone.
Wow, 4 million in just 2 years.
Yeah, and if you look at the trend graph in the report, it shows this really steady, consistent upward climb in office stock going back to 2018. Just up and up.
So who's actually leasing all this space? Which sectors are the big players driving demand as we look towards 2025?
Well, the report gives a pretty clear breakdown. Technology is way out in front. It accounts for about 40% of the office absorption.
40%, just from tech.
Yeah, it really underscores Gurugram's position as a major tech hub, doesn't it?
It certainly does.
After tech, you've got global capability centers, GCCs. They're taking up about 25% of the demand.
Okay.
Then comes BFSI, that's banking, financial services, and insurance at around 20%. And finally, flex space operators, they make up the remaining 15%.
So quite a mix, but definitely leaning heavily towards tech and these big GCC operations.
Precisely. That mix really shapes the kind of corporate environment you find there.
And what about sort of standard market health indicators, like vacancy rates, absorption?
Yeah, the report touches on those. The average vacancy rate is sitting around 17%, which, suggests a reasonably healthy balance between supply and demand. There's space available, but the market's active.
Okay, 17%.
And absorption.
Net absorption for 2024 was pegged at 5.3 million square feet, so strong demand flowing in.
And infrastructure must play a big role here, right?
Yeah.
Getting around Gurugram can be challenging.
Oh, massively important. The report really emphasizes this. Ongoing and planned improvements, things like the metro expansions, better road networks, they're directly boosting tenant interest.
Makes sense.
And they're expected to push up property values too, especially in those areas, getting the new connectivity. Easy commutes are a huge factor for companies deciding where to set up shop.
Right, which brings us perfectly to the real core of this report, I think. It drills down into Gurugram's main commercial zones, what it calls micro-markets. Understanding the differences here seems key.
It's absolutely essential for making strategic decisions. The report uses this really useful comparative benchmarking framework.
Okay, what does that involve? Well, for each specific area, they analyze the factors that businesses really care about. Things like, how affordable are the rents? How easy is it to actually get there? The connectivity and accessibility. What's the surrounding infrastructure, like amenities, hotels, etc.? And then sort of softer factors, too, like how much prestige does the address carry? And crucially for growing companies, how easy is it to scale up your office space in that location?
Okay, that sounds like a practical approach. Let's walk through them. Where do we start? Golf Course Road. The report seems to position that one at the top.
Yeah, GCR. It's described basically as Gurugram's premier central business district. Prestige is definitely the key word here. It's where a lot of the big multinational HQs want to be.
And I assume the rents reflect that high prestige factor.
They absolutely do. The report quotes average premium rents in the range of, say, 120 to 180 per square foot per month.
Okay.
But it also notes that the really top-tier deals, the prime spaces, can even touch 200 per square foot. That tells you something about the demand.
Wow. And what about getting there? Connectivity for GCR.
Excellent connectivity.
Yeah.
You've got the rapid metro running right through it, which connects easily to the main Delhi metro system.
Right.
Plus, it sits right on National Highway 48. So you're looking at a pretty quick drive to the International Airport, IGI. Maybe around 30 minutes, which is a big deal for executives traveling frequently.
Yeah, definitely a plus. And the surrounding area, amenities, it sounds very established.
Very much so. You're surrounded by high-end stuff, luxury hotels, fancy malls, the DLF Golf and Country Club.
Right.
It's a whole premium ecosystem.
Right.
And the report lists some big names as tenants there. Apple, Oracle, American Express, Coca-Cola. You get the picture. It attracts blue chip companies.
Okay, got it. So GCR is the top tier, high prestige, high rent district. Let's shift gears a bit. What about MG Road? How does the report describe that area? Feels quite different.
It is quite different. MG Road is positioned as a critical commercial and retail hub. It's very centrally located within Gurugram, and it definitely has a busier, more mixed-use vibe compared to GCR.
And the rents are different too, presumably. More moderate.
Yes, it falls into what the report calls the medium rent range. Typically, you're looking at 80 to 120 per square foot per month.
Okay.
Though, some premium buildings there might push up towards 150, but generally it's more accessible price-wise than GCR for a lot of businesses.
And connectivity, still strong there.
Very strong. A key advantage is direct access via the Delhi Metro's Yellow Line. That makes commuting from Delhi very straightforward.
Oh, okay.
And it also has great road links connecting across the wider NCR, so very accessible for a large workforce.
And amenities are probably quite dense there. Isn't that where the mall mile is?
Exactly. It's famous for that stretch of shopping malls. So you have tons of retail, loads of different places to eat, plenty of business class hotels all clustered around.
Right.
The report mentions big office complexes like Global Business Park in that zone. It's an environment where work, shopping, and dining are really tightly integrated.
Okay, interesting contrast. Now, moving eastward, the report discusses Golf Course Extension Road, or GCX, focusing on Sector 59. This often gets talked about as an up-and-coming area, right?
Definitely a growth story there. The report highlights Sector 59 as being particularly well-suited for companies needing larger office spaces. Think big floor plates.
Oh, okay.
So ideal for those large GCC operations we mentioned, or big IT parks, corporate campuses, places that need room to grow and consolidate.
And the rents reflect that emerging status.
More competitive. Yes, quite a bit more competitive. The typical range cited is 70 to 100 per square foot per month.
Okay, so a noticeable step down from MG Road even.
Exactly. That price difference means companies can get significantly larger spaces for their budget compared to the more established areas.
Makes sense for those large-scale operations. What about infrastructure? Is that catching up or driving the growth there?
It's hugely important, and it's coming. The big one is the upcoming rapid metro extension, which is expected to be operational in 2025. That's seen as a real game changer for accessibility.
Right, connecting it better.
Yeah. Plus, it's already well connected by road via the Southern Peripheral Road, the SPR, which is a major arterial route now.
And amenities. Are they developing alongside the offices?
They are. It's maybe not as dense or established as GCR or MG Road yet, but amenities are definitely growing. The report mentions developments like Worldmark, which has retail and F&B, and there's a Grand Hyatt hotel planned too.
Okay.
So the whole ecosystem is clearly maturing pretty quickly.
Right. Okay, one more main area the report covers.
Yeah.
Sector 6263, which is sometimes called the SPR cluster. How's that positioned? Another emerging district?
Yes, another emerging business district, primarily along that Southern Peripheral Road. Its main highlight in the report is really cost effectiveness.
Ah, so even more value-oriented.
Exactly. It offers good quality, grade-A office spaces, but at a significantly more accessible price point, typically in the €50 to €80 per square foot per month range.
Okay, 50 to 80. That's quite a difference from GCR's top end.
Huge difference. So it's very attractive for companies that are maybe more budget conscious, or focused on growth and future potential rather than immediate prestige.
And is that future potential also linked to infrastructure coming down the line?
Very much so. There's a future metro line planned for this area with a target date around 2026. That's expected to be a major boost.
Right.
In the meantime, it already connects to the SPR, and the report mentions shuttle services linking it to the existing rapid metro stations. So connectivity is developing.
And the amenities situation in Sector 62, 63, similar to Sector 59, kind of growing?
Pretty similar, yeah. It's developing. You've got commercial complexes like M3M Urbana that include retail and food courts. There are hotels nearby like a Doubletree Hilton, a Lemon Tree.
Okay.
So the supporting infrastructure is growing, but it's definitely still building out its full ecosystem, which for some companies is part of the appeal getting in relatively early, you know?
Yeah, capturing that future upside. Okay, so we've walked through these 4 distinct micromarkets based on a report. We have the overall trends, the specific details. What's the kind of key strategic takeaway here? How does this report help a business actually choose where to locate in Gurugram?
Well, what the report does effectively, I think, is it provides a framework. It helps match a company's specific priority to the unique characteristics of each location.
Okay.
It basically simplifies the decision. It says, look, if your absolute top priority is prestige, brand image, making a statement, then the data points clearly to Golf Course Road. That's your premium choice.
Right. GCR for the big statement.
Yeah.
What if the priority is more about balancing cost with, say, employee convenience and good connectivity?
For that balanced, decent accessibility for the workforce, a more moderate rent profile, the report suggests MG Road really fits the bill. It emerges as a strong contender based on that analysis.
Okay, makes sense. And what if a company's primary need is just sheer space, like a large campus footprint?
That's where these emerging areas really come into their own. The report specifically highlights Sector 59, out on the Golf Course Extension Road, as being optimal for firms that need scalability and those large format spaces.
Right, for the big GCCs and IT parks.
Exactly. That's where you get the space combined with improving connectivity.
And finally, what about companies that are maybe earlier stage or perhaps very focused on getting value but positioning themselves for future growth?
For those growth-oriented firms, the ones looking for value now but also betting on future infrastructure uplift, Sector 6263 is presented as the strategic play.
Okay.
It's about getting in while it's more affordable and benefiting from that planned metro line and continued development down the road.
So it really maps the options clearly based on different business needs. Very helpful.
Yeah, it boils down to aligning your core strategy, whether that's brand, convenience, scale, or future potential, with the specific strengths and profile of each micromarket, as laid out by the data in the report.
Well, that really brings us toward the end of this deep dive into the AIHP report on Gurugram's office market. We've covered the big picture, Gurugram's dominance, and then drilled down into the unique characteristics of those 4 key micromarkets: GCR, MG Road, Sector 59, and Sector 6263, all drawn from the source analysis.
And understanding these distinctions, the different rent levels, the connectivity profiles, the amenity landscapes, who they appeal to, it's just crucial if you're making real estate decisions in Gurugram.
Absolutely.
This report essentially gives you that vital map, whether you're a global company planning a move, an investor, or even just someone interested in how these major urban business hubs evolve.
Definitely. Okay, so here's a final thought for you, our listeners, to maybe mull over, building directly on what the report outlines about the future. We've talked quite a bit about the planned infrastructure upgrades, specifically that rapid metro extension hitting Sector 59 in 2025, and then the future metro line planned for Sector 62-63 around 2026. So thinking beyond the report's 2025 outlook, how might the competitive balance, the relative appeal between those 2 emerging micromarkets, Sector 59 and Sector 62-63, how might that shift and maybe even interact after 2025, once that infrastructure is potentially fully in place? Could it change the landscape again in ways the report maybe only hints at?
That's a great question to ponder. The dynamic could certainly evolve further.
Something to think about as you look ahead. Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive.